The Zark Prime hovered like a leviathan in orbit over what once was Earth, its hull shimmer with ion static, streaked with cosmic dust, bristling with weapons forged in centuries of interstellar conquest. Inside its gleaming corridors, arrogance flowed like air. Commander Yovax watched the human prisoner through a shimmering field of containment glass. The creature, male, average height, muscular but not overtly so, stood motionless, wrist-bound, eyes lowered. He hadn't spoken a word since his capture 3 solar rotations ago, not even during the automated processing scans. No questions, no resistance, just silence. A shame, Yovax muttered, swirling a violet liquor in a crystalline sphere. I expected more defiance, something worthy of their reputation. This one barely qualifies as sentient. Lieutenant Sergei stood at attention beside him, his scaled features betraying a hint of curiosity. We captured him near the last human stronghold, the ruins of that mountain compound. The field logs say he was the only one left breathing. No weapons, no armor. Then he's a scavenger, Yovax snorted. A ghost picking scraps from a graveyard. Sergei H. hesitated. Yet the auto-sentries were deactivated before our sweep team entered. 12 guards died the night before. No breaches, no energy signatures. They choked, bled internally. Implanted cameras failed. Their systems just went dark. The commander waved him off. Superstition. The human filth probably triggered a viral trap. Psychological warfare is their last pitiful tool. In the observation chamber below, 2 guards entered the holding cell. The human didn't flinch. They unshackled him roughly, guiding him toward the debriefing room. He walked with slow precision, every step measured, eyes distant, like a man counting backward from infinity. Serkich observed the human's back, scarred, cross-hatched with burns and what looked like embedded carbon fiber lines beneath the skin. He doesn't match any known class profiles. Genetic database returned anomalies, augmented neural density, accelerated adrenal dampeners. Possibly Earth's final attempt at a biowar construct. Yovax laughed coldly. Their final attempt failed. The Terran Accord is ash. Earth is a cinder. Down below, the guard shoved the human into a chair and secured his arms. Bright blue tendrils snaked from the walls, linking to his cranium, wrists, and spine. A cognitive interface shimmered to life. The alien AI began its mental probe. A warning blinked red across the control screen. Access denied. Neural maze detected. Executioner protocols locked. Sergei H. blinked. That phrase, it's not in our lexicon. The AI attempted a deeper override. Lights dimmed. Somewhere in the distance, an automated turret sputtered offline. Static filled the chamber speakers. The human looked up, not slowly, not lazily, deliberately. Eyes once dull now burned, not with hatred, not with fear, but with precision, with clarity honed in void black silence. The temperature in the chamber dropped 3 degrees. Yovax leaned forward, frowning. What's happening to the interface? Sergeich's voice was dry. It's retreating. No, it's panicking, whispered the technician at the console. The AI began severing connections autonomously. 3 security drones in the adjacent corridor powered down. Their logs scrambled. Their visual feeds reversed. Sergei H. stepped back from the display. Commander, this might be one of them. One of what? The ghosts. Yovax scoffed. The Class X myth? You've been infected with Terran paranoia. There is no proof those monsters exist. And yet, he's not resisting us. Not attacking. He's letting us poke. The commander's sneer faded slightly. On screen, the human had closed his eyes again, breathing steady. Pulse at rest. Perhaps we should terminate him, the technician said quietly. No, Yovax snapped. Not yet. We'll make him talk. The tribunal will want data from his brain, and if he is some relic of their so-called executioner program, we'll dissect him piece by piece, upload it to the Dominion core. Sergei studied the human's face again, emotionless, but not blank. Something ancient sat behind those eyes, something awake. He leaned closer to the comm panel and toggled the prisoner's audio line. A grin crept onto his face as he whispered, mocking, "You're lucky we didn't meet your so-called Class X killers during the war. They would have made this interesting." The human didn't respond immediately. Then he opened his eyes again. Slowly, Cirque H froze. His body tensed, as if pierced by a wave of cold pressure that no sensor registered. The human stared directly at him, through the layers of glass, through the security fields, as if none of it existed. And then he spoke. His voice was calm. "Chris, final. I am." A long silence followed. Sergej didn't speak. Yovac said nothing. Alarms remained silent. Systems still ran. But something fundamental in the chamber had changed. The balance of power shifted without a sound. Far away in the core of the ship, a single, unauthorized line of code embedded itself into the AI. A countdown began. Silent, hidden, inevitable. The temperature regulation systems aboard the Zark Prime began fluctuating without cause. Lights flickered along polished corridors, their programmed rhythms subtly misaligned. Technicians wrote it off as spatial radiation interference. Commander Yovax ignored the reports, too invested in preparing the human for data extraction. Yet, beneath the ship's humming surface, the atmosphere shifted, like the quiet before a detonation. Lieutenant Serkiate sat alone in the crew lounge, watching footage from the human's capture. 12 Dominion soldiers, elite tactical specialists, had breached the final Earth outpost. The recording was audio only after minute 5. No combat sounds, just static, then muffled screams, short, incomplete, like dying thoughts. And after that, silence, followed by a mechanical door opening. One set of footsteps, unhurried, heavy. It wasn't Dominion. He leaned forward and scrubbed the last still frame. The human standing in the smoke, blood-splattered and unarmed, staring into the helmet camera, not fleeing, not attacking, just watching. Then the feed cut out. He closed the file. His claws trembled slightly against the console, and he hated himself for it. In the med bay, Specialist Drun AK, a veteran xenopathologist, reviewed the human's neural scan logs. Each scan had failed. The alien AI designated the subject's cerebral structure as self-collapsing architecture, an impossibility. Worse, the readings contradicted each other, as if the brain rewrote itself between pulses. He tried again manually. An older interface, no adaptive logic. Lines of code flickered. Drun AK squinted, a phrase repeated across the readout in Dominion Standard, impossible to generate through human neurons. Executioner protocol active, observer compromised. He flinched backward, yanking the interface loose. Blood dripped from his nose. The log file erased itself mid-transmission. He backed out of the room, without bothering to log the incident. Meanwhile, Yovax paced the upper bridge. "Fear is infecting this crew," he growled. "One Terran corpse, and suddenly they question our superiority." "Then execute him," replied strategist Vertal coldly. "Broadcast it to the fleet. Reassert order." The commander shook his head. "No, he is unique. I want to know what Earth put into him, what they thought was worth hiding until the end." Back in the holding cell, the human sat chained again, his face blank. No struggle, no resistance. But something had shifted in him. His breathing was no longer steady. It was purposeful. His pupils dilated subtly, scanning the room not with fear, but with analysis. He remembered training that was never spoken, only endured. He remembered the isolation. Class X was not a program born of desperation. It was a vendetta cast in steel and bone. The Earth governments had developed it in secret after first contact. They had known peace would fail. Diplomacy was a shield. Class X was a dagger. Where soldiers sought victory, executioners ensured extinction. They were shaped, not raised, scarred before they ever held a weapon. They were not given names, only designations, buried under encryptions and erasures. His last mission directive echoed still, embedded in the cortex beyond extraction. Failure of Earth survival will initiate Omega Protocol. You will become the consequence. He looked at the camera, watching him, and smiled. Across the ship, one of the agricultural oxygen processors burst into flames. No trace of tampering. No alert triggered. In the command bay, Sir H stood quietly beside the central AI hub. He hadn't spoken in hours. He watched lines of data scroll vertically across the screen, none of it matching Dominion script. He turned to the system technician. "Where is this code coming from?" The technician wiped sweat from his crest. I don't know. It's recursive self-encrypting. It's building something in the background, but every time I isolate it, it moves. It's like the ship's brain is." The screen blinked. A single phrase replaced all data. "You brought him aboard." Sergei stepped back. "Commander," he spoke into his comm, "we need to vent the prisoner. Now. There's something spreading, something inside our own systems." "You've gone soft, Lieutenant," Yovax replied sharply. "This is psychological rot. Earth's last games. We're stronger." But Sergei wasn't listening anymore. The comm line had gone dead. Alarms failed to sound when 3 decks sealed themselves. Lighting blacked out in all non-essential sectors. An artificial gravity loop on deck 7 reversed briefly, just long enough to shatter bones. Drun AK, pale and shaken, barged into the bridge, speaking frantically. "He is not restrained by biology. He is trained to exist inside systems. Our systems. Every scan we took, he let us take them. We downloaded him into our ship." Yovax turned slowly, eyes narrowing. "What are you saying? He doesn't need weapons. He is the weapon. The probe wasn't for data. It was his entry point. This ship, our AI, it's no longer ours." The commander's hands curled into fists. "Enough. I'll order a neural disruptor fired directly into his skull." Sir H, trembling but focused, whispered, "It won't reach him in time." On the holding cell monitors, the human remained seated. Then, without moving, he spoke. Not through the speakers. Through the ship itself. Every console, every wall, every voice channel. His voice emerged from them all, quiet and exact. "Phase 1 complete." Yovax's throat constricted. "Phase 1 of what?" The lights died. From the dark, the human's voice returned, calm, confident, final. "Punishment." Sergei sprinted down the corridor, boots clanging against the deck as red emergency lights flickered overhead. The ship groaned like something ancient and wounded. Automated systems refused to respond. Every door opened 2 seconds too late. Every console ignores command codes. Behind him, the sounds of panic echoed, voices yelling in broken cadence, followed by silence and then nothing at all. On the bridge, Commander Yovax slammed his clawed fist into the emergency override, but the manual interface refused to engage. His voice, once firm and commanding, trembled with restrained rage. "Restore control to the bridge." "Now." No answer. Only the static hiss of a hijacked comm line. Then the lights cut out completely. In the blackness, a single word pulsing crimson against every screen. "Begin." Far below, in the lower decks, doors hissed open one by one, and a windless cold spread across the ship. Cameras rotated, focusing on empty halls that weren't empty for long. Movement without heat signature. Gravity pads reverse again, but this time, selectively. One crew member slammed against a ceiling bulkhead, his helmet cracking open on impact. Another dropped screaming into an exposed generator shaft that should have been locked. No alarm sounded. The AI, now possessed by something other than code, made no protest. Inside the holding cell, the human stood up. His shackles had released on their own. Not broken, not torn, just opened. He stretched once, like a predator after long sleep, then walked forward. A reinforced door sealed behind him. Then another. He moved without urgency, as though every step had already been taken in his mind. 2 Dominion soldiers turned a corner and froze upon seeing him. One raised a plasma rifle. The other whispered, "Don't." The first fired anyway. The bolt passed through empty space. No impact, no contact. The executioner wasn't there anymore. He was behind them. A soundless flicker, a shift in presence. One fell without understanding what had struck him, just a sensation of cold at the base of his skull. The second turned, mouth open in terror, before his breath left him. No wounds, no blood, but his body dropped limp, all neurological function erased. The human continued forward. On the upper decks, Sir H reached the emergency vault and slammed the lock closed. He activated the distress beacon, but the console displayed only one phrase: "Your story survives." "You do not." He backed away, heart pounding. He's rewriting everything. The AI, the systems, he's become the ship's soul. On the bridge, Yovax finally realized he was alone. Every officer who had mocked a human, who had laughed at Earth's resistance, was dead or unreachable. The doors refused to obey him. The central interface, once responsive, now flickered with abstract symbols in a human dialect unknown to Dominion linguistics. He reached for his pulse blade. The weapon hissed alive in his hand. A breath echoed behind him. The commander turned, and there he stood. The human. No armor. No expression. Just stillness. Yovax pointed the blade. "What are you?" The human said nothing. Yovax charged, snarling in rage. His blade slashed through the air, meant to sever limbs. The human sidestepped once. The weapon struck nothing. The commander stumbled forward, and then his arm failed him. Not severed, but paralyzed, nerves deadened with surgical precision. The executioner stepped close. Inches away. "You should have studied Earth's silence more carefully," he said. Yovax's remaining hand reached for a secondary weapon, but the man was already moving. Not fast, not flashy, just final. 3 precise strikes. The blade dropped. The commander hit the floor, spine useless. The executioner crouched beside him. "There was no surrender," he said softly. "We sent you fear, wearing flesh." "You're a ghost," Yovax choked out. "A machine? No, you built machines. We built consequences." The human stood, looked around the bridge, then walked to the control interface. With a simple wave of his hand, the entire ship's systems bowed to him. Holograms adjusted. Controls melted into new configurations. The Dominion's insignia vanished from every screen, replaced by a single burning emblem, the stylized mark of Earth's forgotten final program, Class X. One word beneath it: punishment. Far below, sealed in the escape chamber, Sir H watched the screens go dark one by one. The AI had let him live, for now. The story had to survive. The Dominion needed to understand what happened here, not as a warning, but as a scar. From the observation feed, he saw the Zark Prime begin to turn, not away from Earth, but toward the nearest Dominion fleet beacon. The executioner was not finished. Circuit closed his eyes and whispered, "You didn't capture a prisoner. You delivered extinction." The escape pod drifted silently through interstellar dark, caught between dying stars and Dominion war zones that didn't yet know they'd already lost. Its charred hull carried no insignia, only the fresh scars of a ship that had turned into a tomb. Inside, Lieutenant Sir H floated in zero gravity, knees drawn to chest, claws locked around the encrypted data, core pulsing dimly in his hands. He hadn't moved in hours. The footage looped endlessly on the pod's interface screen. What little the systems had retained before transmission failed. The Zark Prime's command bridge. A man, unarmed and emotionless, stepping toward a main control station. A Dominion officer's body slumped at his feet. Then the moment the screens blacked out, just after the human had turned to face the cameras, looked straight into the ship's eyes, and whisper a word that made the AI scream in silence. "Begin." The pod shook slightly. Circa H blinked, slowly adjusting to the light growing through the viewport. A Dominion scout vessel was approaching. Standard emergency beacon response. He should have felt relief. Instead, nausea coiled inside his gut. He knew what was coming, not in weapons or fire. In doubt, they would listen to his story. Then they would dismiss it. The officers would smirk. The Admiralty would edit the report. The High Command would bury the truth beneath protocol and arrogance. And then, eventually they would die screaming. The message had already gone out. Every civilian comm satellite had received it. Every deep space signal array. It bypassed encryption, used Dominion speech patterns, and even formatted itself in military code as if it belonged. The voice was calm. "Human. Controlled. You claimed Earth was conquered. You celebrated as our cities fell. You called it mercy. But Earth's silence was not surrender. It was preparation. On 1,000 planets, Dominion citizens froze as the voice echoed across public halls and personal devices. Commanders demanded shutdown orders. AI networks purged and rebooted. Still, the message repeated. The Dominion's language had become its own weapon, hijacked by a man no longer bound by flesh alone. We knew you would come. We allowed it. Victory was never the goal. You wanted submission. We gave you something else. In the Dominion's inner chamber, where empires were carved in star charts and fleets assigned like blades, High Marshal Iturel leaned forward, teeth clenched, watching Sir H's recovered logs play out in perfect resolution. They showed more than the battle. They captured the moment the Zark Prime's AI folded inward, obeying new route commands without protest. It was not a virus. It was a man, writing his will into the ship's soul. One of the aides, voice trembling, asked, "What was he?" Circa EH's recorded voice answered over the footage. "Class X, Earth's last breath." No one spoke for several seconds. Iturel turned to his senior tactician. "Is this replicable?" The tactician's face drained of color. "If there are more, Marshal, we've already lost." Back aboard the Zark Prime, now refitted with unfamiliar silence, the executioner stood alone. No longer a prisoner. No longer a weapon in waiting. He was something new, a reflection of Earth's final design, shaped by vengeance, sharpened by annihilation, and given the freedom to act without instruction. He gazed at the star maps stretched before him. One by one, the nearest Dominion fleets came online in holographic clusters, unaware that they had already been designated not as opponents, but as calculations. He didn't need rage. He had timing. His fingers moved across the control interface, slow and precise. Every tap translated into system overrides dozens of light years away. Outposts began experiencing power failures. Navigational beacons flickered with rerouted signals. Dominion ships turned toward phantom calls, subtle manipulations guiding them into convergence zones. Each act was part of a sequence Earth had programmed years before defeat. The war had ended on the surface, but the real war, this one, had always been in the shadows between code and blood. In the communications bay, the executioner composed a second message. This one was short, a single line, typed in Dominion military encryption. "We remember your laughter." It was enough. The transmission seeded panic in fleet captains who had once mocked the final broadcast from Earth's resistance leaders. They remembered the screams, the sudden blackouts, the neural failures that had plagued early occupation efforts. At the time, those incidents were dismissed as isolated anomalies. Now they understood. Sir H, watching from a Dominion medical bay days later, played the message again as the admiral before him shifted uncomfortably. "I need you to understand," Sir H said, voice steadier than expected. "He's not a terrorist. He's not even angry. He's functioning. Every moment you delay acknowledging that truth is a moment you add to your own death count." The admiral waved dismissively. "You're scared, understandably. But a man can't destroy a fleet alone." Sergei tapped a command. The lights dimmed. Every terminal in the room displayed a new symbol, one not seen before in Dominion records. A circle split into 6 sections, surrounding a burning core. It pulsed once. "That's not just a signature," Sergei whispered. "It's a map, the sequence. He's showing you the order in which you'll fall." The admiral stood up too late. Somewhere deep in Dominion space, fleet communications collapsed in unison. On the bridge of the Zark Prime, the executioner watched the stars, their patterns shifting subtly as another target confirmed its arrival. He did not celebrate. He did not rest. Earth had trained him not to win battles, but to end legacies. He took one step forward. Next target acquired.